Everything that you think is true is actually false. And what is overlooked is actually true. When we talk about withdrawing from body, mind, and world, it just is a what? I'm just abiding as nothing. That's just nothing, isn't it? I'm like turning away from all of life and all of the beauty of life and abiding as nothing. This is like the opposite of what I was looking for, isn't it? Once you start doing it for a while, you realize that this is the true life. You're abiding as God, as source. This is the real life. And the life that you thought was so real is a fiction. It's like a dream. There's that film, what's it called? It's that Leonardo DiCaprio film about dreams and spinning tops. Inception. Have it, maybe some of you have seen that film, Inception. But Diana, you're shaking your head. Have a watch of it if you want to. But it's about the idea is it's to do with dreams basically. So if you haven't watched it, I'll let you watch it. But essentially, what you think is real might not be real. But if you think it's real, then you think that's your life. You feel very reluctant to let it go because you think it's real. Imagine you had a dream now. Imagine all of us, men and women, we all fell asleep and we dreamt that we were a fairy princess. And we now married the prince of our dreams. Okay, and we lived in a lovely, lovely castle in the clouds. Yeah. And now imagine suddenly a wise person appears in your dream and says, hey, this is a dream. This isn't real. You know, you're not a fairy princess, you know, and this husband, this Prince Charming that you love so much, he's not real. Leave him. This thing in the clouds is a fiction. You can't have a castle in the clouds. Let's leave this place and get back to reality. Now, if you think that dream is real, you'll be saying to this person, how dare you? How dare you tell me to leave my husband, leave my home, leave my kingdom, leave everything that's near and dear to me? But when you wake up, you think, oh my gosh, thank God you saved me from that dream. I thought that was real. I could have been trapped there for ages in that. I thought I was a fairy princess married to Prince Charming in the clouds. You know. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought I actually wanted that life. That's horrible. That's like a nightmare. You see, and that's what this is like. Once you start abiding as a self, you start realizing what you thought was very important is actually like some kind of dystopian nightmare. The way we hear this message first is that we as a body mind want to be more peaceful. When we heard the same with me, when I came across these teachings or the notion of enlightenment, I thought, oh, excellent, I can be happier. I can be more at peace. That's what we want initially. And as we mature along the journey, we realize more and more, oh my gosh, I as Tom, I as a body mind cannot actually attain this because I could die, I could become unhealthy, whatever I gain, I can lose, and my friends and family could die and become unhealthy, and this is going to stress me out. So no matter what kind of limited peace I find, it's always going to be rocked because I take myself to be body mind, and I care dearly for my friends and family around me, and what's going to happen when they die. I want to suffer. So how's my suffering ever going to end? It's going to be relentless. And if you believe in reincarnation, then I'm going to be born again. It's going to happen all over again. So then you start to realize, gosh, there's no possibility of a liberation or a separate entity. And then you come across the deeper teachings, which say, actually, you're not the body-mind entity at all. And then you start going down the rabbit hole, and then you realize that, but it always, and you start realizing this, the pieces of the self, as early as the self. But we always come at it, it's inevitable. We come at it as, I'm body, mind, entity. I want more. I want to be happier. That's how it always starts. That's how it works. So as we mature along the journey, as we become more fit to receive these teachings, that's what we mean by spiritual maturity. The more mature we are, spiritual maturity can be defined as how readily do you do self-inquiry. This means how readily do you give up the body, mind, and world and attend to the self. Most people on the street are not going to want to do that because they're very attached to their world. But as you become more spiritually mature, you become less attached to the world, you become more attached to God or spirit or self or guru, true guru within. And only then do we become fit to receive these teachings and then receive the grace of God. But this is the way it will unfold. But when you do self-inquiry, you start to realize the fictional nature of the world. If you don't do self-inquiry, you won't realize that. And so these teachings can be very offensive even, and abhorrent even. These teachings can be horrible. Just like the wise man in that dream when he went to the fairy princess. The fairy princess was shocked. How dare you? How dare you tell me that this is all fiction? This is my life you're talking about here. So the sooner you start the practice, the sooner you start realizing the truth of these teachings for yourself. Then you don't need a second or third person to tell you how to do this anymore. You start developing the conviction for yourself. It starts happening. And then you start to have faith in the teachings and teach even more. And you feel drawn, oh my gosh, I need to do this more and more. I need to just abide in the reality. And then your worries and anxieties start to go away. You feel happier in life. Then you stop fearing death. You stop caring what happens to the body, mind, entity. The mind might start retaliating. Oh my gosh, what's happening to me? I'm losing my humanity. I'm not going to be compassionate. I'm not caring anymore. But then you find the body, mind is caring, compassionate anyway, because that's just its nature. Even though you don't care to be caring, you don't care to be compassionate, you are, because you're happy. And when you're happy, when the body, mind is happy, it's caring and compassionate. When it's small and afraid, it acts egoically. You lose your fears, you lose your anxieties, they just fall away. You lose your fear of life. Life itself becomes beautiful. But this is realization, not concepts. Not just what happens to some seekers, right? They just fool themselves in their mind. Some teachers too. You'll still see, you realize there's an energy to this as well. So when you abide as a self, the egoic vasanas have an energy to them. You can feel it in someone else. When someone's more egoic than you can often feel it, can't you? You know, those, you meet people and they're more egoic than you are, and you can see it. You can see the pain, you can see the suffering. When someone's less egoic than you, they look like an angel. They're radiant and pure and calm, you know? And they're just less egoic than you probably. So you don't sense their ego. And as you become less and less egoic, as you do self-inquiry more and more and more, you become less and less egoic. There'll be more and more people who are more egoic than you because your egotism is diminishing. And you'll start to see ego everywhere. Even in those compassionate saints, you'll start to see how their ego works on a subtle level. You develop a sixth sense. People think you've got a sixth sense about these things. How do you do it? You're reading minds now. You're not. You're just picking up on the energetic difference. And you'll start to see the spiritual teachers. You'll start to see their ego. You'll start to see how it all works. You'll start to see the ones that aren't egoic. You start to sense it on an energetic level. You'll see the vasanas in operation. You see the neurotic tendencies in operation, or lack of. when there's realization. This is why when a seeker comes to me, often I can see straight through what's happening. It's not because I'm amazing or because I've got some sort of special powers. No, it's just you can do the same. We all can. We can always do it to people who are more egoic than us. We can see all their things, can't we? You know, when we're more, and we shouldn't be ashamed, to, at least in our own minds, to realize that we can be more spiritually developed and more psychologically developed than other people. That's just a fact. We can be less developed in some ways and more developed in other ways. Now, often I don't advise you go around telling people this, because people don't respond too nicely to it. You know, if you say to someone, actually, I'm more psychologically developed than you, so I can see your issues, people don't tend to like that so much because they're less spiritually developed. But that's a part of it. You know, it's the same with anything. You know, as I say, if you're a very good tennis player, you will notice the mistakes that less good tennis players are making. Whereas if you're not very good, anyone who's better than you think, oh, they're brilliant. You won't realize all the mistakes they're making. It's like that. Same thing.